Imagine this: a brazen, seamless heist that stole more than $1 billion without the perpetrators setting foot in one bank. Yeah, you heard right. Here's the story of the Carbanak hackers, one of the crazy cyber heists in history. Target: the supposedly unbreachable financial systems of major banks. Weapon: pure undetectable tech wizardry. These guys moved like ghosts, sneaking into the banking networks looking for holes nobody even knew existed.
Moving on, today a Russian security company reported that it discovered one of the biggest bank robberies ever. No guns involved, hackers did it, breaking into more than 100 banks in 30 countries and making off with a total of as much as $1 billion.
How did they actually do it? How did they suck in over $1 billion from the world's safest banks without arousing any alarm? Tune in today as we try to make sense of the incredible true story about the Carbanak heist, full of masterfully crafted lies, impeccable execution, and a take that's almost unbelievable. So sit tight as we try to unpack exactly how they managed to hack them and how they were eventually caught. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. How did they get in? Assume you receive an email apparently from your boss or your trusted vendor. Everything seems just okay: the logo, the signature, even the tone. Behind a seemingly harmless attachment waits a ticking time bomb. That's exactly how Carbanak hackers began their journey. They prepared spear phishing emails for each of the chosen bank's targets. Not mass spam, but rather perfectly crafted to make the receiving end comfortable enough to click. Shortly after one of the banking employees opened the attachment, malware Carbanak malware was let loose into the system. This malware left with the thieves an open door through which they could enter the bank's network, to watch and learn and eventually take control of the overall operations of the bank. This was indeed slipping a key into the front door without anyone noticing. These phishing emails were very well crafted to take advantage of man's biggest weakness, the weakest link of any cybersecurity system: clicking the right button. And to the world's surprise, it was all in for the Carbanak crew. One of the most notorious heists of modern history had just begun. The brilliance behind spear phishing attacks lay in exploiting human psychology. They knew that banks have workers dealing with thousands of emails daily and formulated the messages to seem urgent, messages that required urgent attention. Human psychology guides people to attend to the matters at hand right away, thus the Carbanak hackers exploited it. With the urgency they created, they outplayed the possibility of the victims giving a second thought, on which they ended up getting an entry. Now that they were in, it was time to get down to the real work. Carbanak moved laterally through the internal bank network. It is like sneaking through a maze, one room at a time. They did not sit there, they were exploring all the digital corners of the bank's infrastructure without them knowing, and making it look like just some internal changes so as not to get caught. One of their ways was putting keyloggers on the computers of employees. They captured all keystrokes and could learn the passwords, gain access to accounts, and so understand the internal workflow. Then, they turned up the tricks to 12 by enabling web cameras and video recording of the work of employees. That is when everything related to the procedure of conducting banking operations came into view: who authorized which transactions, which systems were used, and who had the keys. They spent months, sometimes half a year, watching and learning patiently. They mapped the entire workings of the bank, marking points where they could deliver crucial blows. The Carbanak hackers were playing a long game, one that required the ability to keep themselves unseen and visible. They also used social engineering as a means of penetration. They utilized impersonation and communication with the actual personnel to access the confined areas of the network. They managed to hack SWIFT terminals and initiated fake transactions of tens of millions of dollars transferred to accounts controlled by themselves in different parts of the world. But they didn't end it there. They also balanced the account, wherein in some cases balances were inflated to make the accounts appear with funds supposedly available. Hackers were cautious their transactions had a rhythm like the rest of the normal rhythms of banking. They ensured that everything was like going on as normal, and their fraudulent activities blended so well into the bank's routines. This level of sophistication made it very hard for anyone to notice what was going on until far too late. The accuracy with which they conducted these transfers was nothing short of remarkable. They used the information they had gathered during their reconnaissance to make sure all their transactions would appear authorized. They even considered normal volume and timing within a bank, making sure that their fraudulent transfers showed none of these abnormalities. It thus needed quite a lot of knowledge about banking processes and skills to flawlessly imitate them. From that point, the money was shuffled forward and backward across international borders, swapped out of one currency and into another, until it was almost impossible to follow the money back to its source. The Carbanak hackers knew that if they wanted to get away with this, The money had to go dark in a tangle of financial transactions, a digital game of shell and peanuts that authorities might be unable to untangle. The Carbanak gang did not stop there, having stolen millions. The group set their targets on ATMs. The gang gained access to ATMs through remote access. They could tell the ATMs to dispense money at specific times. It was not just a random withdrawal, it was a planned affair, as money mules were waiting on standby for their share of the loot. Here is what this might signify the end. Consider an ATM in the dead of night that all of a sudden starts spewing out money, and someone was there to collect. But because hackers would have been able to command exactly when and where money would be dispensed by ATMs, accomplices would be ready to collect it with minimal attention. It was like having your very own ATM that paid on demand. This just added another layer to the heist. They would take physical cash as well as any possible digital transfers. It was bold, dangerous, and superbly effective. By the time anyone noticed something was amiss, the mules and the money were long gone. Sometimes, the Carbanak gang hacked and changed the ATM software so that no trace existed for any transactions. This further complicated matters for the banks to trace where the siphoned money was coming from. Since the cash was dispensed with no form of indication of a withdrawal, the bank officials were perplexed at trying to figure out where the money was disappearing from. It wasn't an isolated hit, but a well-planned series of heists that lasted for several years. For each of the targeted banks, it was months of reconnaissance and planning and then executing. From the spear phishing email which kicked off the whole operation to the last money transfer or ATM withdrawal, every job was a masterstroke of criminal strategy. The affected banks now exceed hundreds in more than 30 countries, with losses estimated at over $1 billion. As such, the impact was very massive, and it shook the world's international banking system to its core. The banks had to reassess their security measures, and governments around the world were called on to collaborate in the quest to track them down. The heist exposed enormous vulnerabilities in the financial system, vulnerabilities which the Carbanak crew played great surgical precision with. It was not about the money, it was sheer audacity of the operation and realizing even the most secure systems were vulnerable to those who had the knowledge and patience for it. The Carbanak hackers did not just steal the money, they simply broke the illusion of security many financial institutions lived in. Banks believed such systems could never be penetrated and their safety was guaranteed, but in this heist, it proved otherwise. Afterwards, there was running about changing security protocols, training the employees well, and investing in more technical cybersecurity technologies. But given the global nature of this heist, the impact was not confined to one country or even one bank, it was an attack on the whole system. The law eventually caught up with them. Bringing Carbanak hackers to justice required years of international cooperation involving law enforcement agencies from at least 2 countries. Cybersecurity won a major battle, but it also serves starkly as a reminder just how vulnerable financial institutions are to determined cybercriminals. In the world of Carbanak, the game was changed and made banks strengthen their defenses and rethink the way they handle security. If you found this story as mind-blowing as we did, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more incredible stories like this to you. Don't miss out. Thanks for watching.